So I just want to say that it's been incredible to hear from so many fantastic women and gender diverse data scientists from across Australia. It's really an honor just to hear your stories and see the spotlight on you. So that's awesome. So yeah, I'm a PhD student at QUT. And I guess I'd firstly like to start by talking about something that's come up a lot in this webinar, where a lot of people don't really recognize themselves as data scientists. And it's been a pretty common thread where, you end up doing mathematics or find your way to this data science role, and it's not really clear what it is. And I just wanted to say that I think a lot of us are data scientists without even realizing it in everyday life. So for example, I grew up in a very rural area in Queensland on a cattle farm. And on that cattle farm, all of the time, we are constantly evaluating, like, why were the cattle so successful this year? Like, why did this crop succeed? Did it have more sunlight? Is the nutrients good there? And in that way, like in everyday life, a lot of Australians are just doing data science. And so I think when we get to this level, it sort of feels like it's hard to acknowledge that. So coming from a very rural background, when you go through high school and you say, oh, I want to go to university, again, not again, but you can start to see some head scratches coming from teachers thinking like, oh, not many people go to university from here. And then you say that you want to do mathematics at university and they're going, are you sure this is a good move for you? Because it's such a foreign concept to think what mathematics can get for you. And I got some advice at the time where I was going through high school, where if you're going to do a mathematics degree, you have to do another degree with it so that you can do something useful. And so I added on a business degree when I went through university. I studied finance and mathematics, and that landed me in a role in an investment bank and looking at superannuation, where I got, a job after university, and I hated it. So I'd just been placed in this role because of this need to feel like I have an application for my mathematics. And it really, for me, was not a good fit. I just felt like I was churning the wheel, trying to get through every day. And it took me a long, long time to take a step back and evaluate why it wasn't working for me. And it was probably one of the hardest things I've had to do so far in my career, is take a stop and go, I can't do this anymore. So about the time when COVID was affecting us all, I was quitting my job and suddenly found myself going, what am I going to do now? I have no idea where to go, what I can do with my skills. And I reached out to a contact at QUT and found myself in an honours program where I could look at environmental modelling from a statistics perspective. And so I very quickly fell in love with environmental modelling, because I just had so much more motivation to solve real problems that actually affect us in real life. And so the problem that I was working on was related to coral reef conservation. And from there, I've gone on to do research assistant roles. I'm now doing my PhD, and all of it has been really centered around an environmental and an ecological focus. And for me, that's just been fantastic. That's all I've really needed. And it was just completely devoid of all the handle turning the cog that my finance background sort of gave me. And so in my studies at the moment as a PhD candidate, I'm looking at these models which are trying to solve really, really important questions in conservation, like which things should we invest in, which are actually going to be most likely to succeed. And they have real impacts for threatened species across Australia and globally. And so having that motivation is really important. And I get to throw at it some statistical techniques. So I'm really, really involved with Bayesian computational techniques. I'm a huge fan of sequential Monte Carlo. I love doing global sensitivity analyses, and bringing those really rigorous statistical and data science methods to an important problem in the applied mathematics world is really where my niche has come in. And it's just been fantastic for me. And a huge part of what has been fantastic for me is that I get to work with some incredible people, and I've featured a little selection of who those people are on my slide here. So this is part of the QUT Math Ecology group, which is partially led by Kate Helmstead, who's pictured in the center there. And I really want to give her a huge shout out, because what she's managed to do in her little environmental niche at QUT is create such an inclusive environment for gender diversity. And it has been phenomenal in bringing out what women are capable within our group. So just having those women around you, having people who you can go to for support has been incredibly powerful in allowing them to reach their full potential. And it's not just within our little ecological niche at QUT. We also have a really, really fantastic Centre for Data Science, which Kerry Mankerson can probably attest to, is full of women who are really, really supportive and empowering. And I think in terms of moving forward, how we can bring gender diversity into STEM, it's really about cultivating these groups where we feel like we belong. And I've heard from other people that perhaps you get invited to be a PhD student in a lab where it's more of a, are you just a gender number booster? That creates a really bad environment. And I think the best thing that we can be doing is supporting them to build their own environments and join onto ours in order to promote this really great environment. That's all I've got to say, unless you want to hear me ramble more about my life story, but thanks so much for the invite.